Hey, this is Mike Matthews from muscleforlife.com, and in this short video I want to talk about skinny fat, the dreaded, the worst insult that you can give someone in the fitness world. You're skinny fat. And in case you're not familiar with exactly what this is, a skinny fat type of physique is one where the body fat percentage isn't that high, but there's very little muscle. So what you have is the body just ends up looking kind of amorphous. You don't have any real muscle definition. You're not lean enough to have even necessarily abs. You don't look fat. Like when you're wearing your clothes, you just look like a normal person. But with your clothes off, you look skinny, but at the same time you look fat because you have a clear layer of fat covering everything, covering your stomach and covering the rest of your muscles. And it seems to be more of a problem with women than with men. And that's because the weight loss advice given to women is generally even worse than the mainstream type of weight loss advice, or fat loss advice given to women is even worse than the mainstream fat loss or weight loss advice given to men. And both, really what a lot of the mainstream advice is very low calorie dieting, a lot of cardio, and very little weightlifting, or if there is, and any weightlifting that is being done in a very high rep range, which is, there's different bro science reasons. It really speeds up your metabolism, or it really shreds the fat and stupid stuff like that. So that's the general type of advice given to people if they want to get lean. And for women, it just, for whatever reason, they get hit with this. They get really targeted with the very low calorie dieting and do a ton of cardio. They want to stay away from the weights because they think weights makes them bulky, which they're told. I mean, it's not like they're being stupid or anything. I understand if you don't understand the body, you don't understand the physiology of muscle growth and what it really takes to get bulky. And you're reading magazines, you're listening to people who you think are experts, and they're saying, don't do weights, it's going to make you bulky. Or if you do weights, you use very, very, very little weight, or you have to do weird types of programs where you're holding your reps, you're doing super slow training or stuff like that. All kinds of weird advices given to women when it comes to weightlifting to avoid getting bulky, which is kind of funny because that bulky look that women want to avoid takes a couple years at least of regular heavy weightlifting to even get enough muscle for where a girl could maybe feel bulky, and it takes being too high body fat percentage. If a girl's 25% and has been weightlifting heavy, doing heavy compound weightlifting for 2 years, she's gonna look, not super bulky. She's not gonna look like a freak bodybuilder, but she's gonna look bulkier than how most women would want to look. But if you took that same girl and you brought her down to, let's say, 16% or 17% body fat, all of a sudden she'll look awesome. She'll look very athletic. She's gonna have muscle tone everywhere. So it's really just if you're a girl and you want to have muscle tone, you're going to have to lift weights, and you're going to have to lift heavier weights than you might think. And the more muscle you have, the leaner you have to stay to maintain that athletic, fit type of look that you want. It's really that simple. And the same thing goes for guys, but us guys, we seem to be a little bit, we have a little bit more leeway, I guess, that we can get away with in terms of body fat percentage. And guys tend to care, I wouldn't say they care less, but it's just there's a lot more attention culturally put on women being skinny. Whereas guys, if you have some muscle but you're let's say you don't really have much abs, say you're 15% body fat, you're not going to have much in the way of abs. But if you have a little bit of muscle, you're considered athletic, and there are guys that would think they look great at 15%. So that's what skinny fat is, and I've talked a little bit about how you kind of get there, and you get there by burning up too much muscle. Really, was it what it boils down to. So very low calorie dieting, that burns up muscle. Doing a ton of cardio, that burns up muscle. Not doing enough weightlifting, it doesn't, not weightlifting obviously doesn't burn up muscle, but you don't get the muscle preservation type of benefits that you would normally get if you were weightlifting while you're restricting your calories. When you combine those three things into one, when our powers combine, then you get skinny fat, basically. I get emailed by a lot of people that they'll have lost quite a bit of weight, 40, 50 pounds. This is guys and girls, and then now they've put in all that work and all that time, and now they just kind of feel and look skinny fat, and they just don't know what to do. So the first thing that you need to do when if you are skinny fat is you're going to have to see, you can get into a funny position where your body fat percentage could still be basically too high for wanting to focus on muscle growth, bulking, right? So let's say a guy, you're at 15-16% body fat, you're skinny fat. What do? Some people would say, oh, just bulk, just go in a calorie surplus and just focus on putting on muscle. I disagree, and I'm going to link an article below on why I think that the best place to be basically is where you're cutting down to about 10% body fat, and then you're bulking, and you go from there up to 15-16% body fat. Ideally, this is over the course of months. Ideally, this would be like 4 or 5, even 6 months if you could, where you maintain that slight calorie surplus over time, so you maximize the amount of muscle that you can build in that time, and then you cut for a couple months. You do it right, so you don't make the mistakes I was talking about earlier. You don't just crash your calories, do a ton of cardio, and cut back on your lifting. Instead, you use a moderate calorie deficit. You focus on heavy weightlifting. Like when I'm cutting, I'm finishing my cut right now. I'm like about 2 months in. I lost 2 weeks. 1 week I was out of town. I was in LA and just eating food and didn't care. I knew I was going to lose a week, but hey, I don't. Where I live, there aren't very many good restaurants. So if I get the chance to eat good food, I'm going to do it. And then I was sick for a couple days. I kind of lost a week there. So I'm about 2 months in, and I'm now back. I had a little cold. It wasn't anything big, but it affects strength. And my strength is still actually pretty good. When I compare my lifts to when I started cutting, I've lost a couple reps, and that's what you want. That's the worst case scenario when you're cutting correctly, is you lose a little bit of strength. But many people, and also realize, I started around 9% body fat, and I'm probably a little bit under 7% right now. But a lot of guys that I talk to that start higher, let's say they start 15-16%, cut down to 10, they don't lose any strength. They gain strength throughout it. So don't think that in women, if you're starting around 25 and you want to get to 20, which is where you start kind of having that athletic type look that most women like, don't just mentally resign to like, oh, I'm cutting, I can't build any muscle anyway, my workouts are going to suck, I'm not really going to push myself. Chances are your workouts will actually be okay. For the first week, we usually, because you have to kind of cut your carbs back, that's where you pull most of your calories down from, just because you keep your protein high and you want to keep your fats moderate, so you just kind of play with your carbs mainly. And so when you bring those carbs down, sure, the first week is a little bit rough. Your strength is down a little bit. Your body has to adjust a little bit. But you should be able to have good workouts while you're cutting, and you should be able to at least maintain strength. But many guys they actually gain strength while cutting. So let's go back to, you're a guy or you're a girl. Your body fat percentage is still a bit too high. And you look skinny fat, and the idea of getting skinnier, losing more weight, is just really not appealing, because you just think you're going to look even worse. But I definitely recommend that the first thing you do is get down to, if you're a guy, get down to the 10% range, or if you're a girl, get down to the 20% range before you go into a calorie surplus and start focusing on building muscle. Now, if you are focusing on and you're emphasizing heavy compound weightlifting, and by that I mean working with 80 to 85% of your 1 rep max for the majority of your sets in your workout. If you are going to do high rep stuff, it's at the end, and it's a small part of your workout. And then you're focusing on exercises like the squat, the deadlift, the bench press, the military press. These are the exercises that build a great physique. And if you are doing that, if you start doing that and you haven't been doing that in the past, there's a good chance you're actually going to build some muscle while you are getting rid of this last bit of fat that maybe you haven't been able to get rid of because of the skinny fat problem. And you basically can chalk that up to newbie gains. And newbie gains are not just for when you are brand new to working out, but they also apply to if you are brand new to proper weightlifting. And as a natural weightlifter, that is proper weightlifting. I know there are a lot of theories out there in terms of rep ranges and such, and I'm going to link an article that just reminds me on this subject, because there's a lot of controversy on this. But if you look at the as much research as I can get my hands on, and then I have a bit of anecdotal experience as well, not just with my own body, but now I've worked with thousands of people. I'm 100% convinced that as a natural weightlifter, if you want to maximize muscle growth, along with strength progression, and those things go hand in hand, you want to be emphasizing heavy compound weightlifting. So if you do that, so you're skinny right now, skinny fat, you use a moderate calorie deficit, you don't crash your calories, you high protein dieting, moderate to high carbohydrate, moderate to low fat, you emphasize heavy weightlifting, and you cut back on the cardio. You, instead of doing, and I'm going to link another article here on this, instead of doing 2 hours of cardio a day or even an hour of cardio a day, you just, and this is, again, I'm speaking from my experience. There's obviously a lot of research, which you'll see in the article on high intensity interval cardio that I'm linking below, but also I'm speaking from experience with my body and with literally thousands of people I've now worked with. High intensity interval cardio is just more effective. You get more fat loss over time for less time put in. And less time put in doesn't just I don't prefer it because I'm just lazy. I honestly would be very, very bored sitting there droning away on a treadmill or a Stairmaster for 2 hours a day. I wouldn't even do it. If that's what it took to get shredded, I'd be like, whatever. I'll get as low as I can get and I'll stop there, because what am I going to do? That seems almost like a waste of time. But with HIIT cardio, like what I'm doing right now is, and like I said, I started at about 194, maybe it was a little bit higher. I have to check my log. Maybe 196. Started at 196, 9% or so. I'm 187 right now, right under 7%. And my routine the entire time has been, I weightlift 5 days a week for about 60 minutes. A lot of heavy weightlifting, compound weightlifting. And then I'm in a moderate calorie deficit, if you look at it on a weekly, it's about a 20% deficit, nothing extreme, just the standard type of approach. High protein, high carbohydrate, moderate to low fat. One refeed, I've been doing refeeds just in the end here where I'm eating more carbs once a week. And my cardio is 3 days a week for about 25 minutes of HIIT on the recumbent bike. I either bring my Kindle and read, or I bring, or I watch like a TV show of some kind, or I save my Game of Thrones episodes and, whatever. I don't really watch much TV, but I'll just save it for cardio time. And I actually normally would do 4 days a week, but I'm golfing a lot on the weekend, and it's actually a bit more draining. So I'm on the range trying to learn the sport, and I'm hitting ball after ball, and it actually becomes a bit it's more tiring than I was expecting. So, come Sunday where I'd normally do cardio, I feel like even my body's a little bit like, you need to settle down. Like we need some time to recover. So that's it. That's all I'm doing. A total of about an hour, a little bit over an hour cardio a week, and about 5 hours of weightlifting a week and proper diet. So, I'm just scanning here if there's anything else I want to cover on this. And that's about it. So if you are skinny fat, now you know what you need to do. I will link an article on this if you want to just read what I'm talking about and kind of see some of the research and where I dive into it a bit more. But basically right now what you want to do is you want to focus on if your body fat percentage is a guy, if you are over, if you're 13, 14, 15 or higher, or I'd say 14 or 15% or higher, we need to get you down to 10% first before we put you in a surplus. If you're a girl and you're 24%, 25% or higher, then we need to get to 20. If you're a guy and you currently are around 10% and you just are skinny fat, and then you're in a good position to start bulking, which would be like doing it correctly, meaning a small calorie surplus, which then when you combine that with proper weightlifting allows you to maximize muscle growth. Same thing as a girl if that's what you want to do. Most girls that I talk to are more interested in just staying lean and building muscle very slowly over time. Many of them don't like the idea of kind of slowly accumulating body fat to build a bit more muscle, which, it's a personal thing. So that's pretty much the story on skinny fat. And then if you are not dealing with that skinny fat problem and you just don't want to have to deal with it, then the key is when you are wanting to lose fat, don't just dramatically cut your calories. Don't do a ton of cardio, and don't do a ton of high rep weightlifting or too little weightlifting. And you'll never have to deal with skinny fat. On this last cut of mine, I'm now that I'm comparing myself to where I am now at about 187 to where I was last year. At this time, I do my little summer cut thing. I ended my cut at 182 and change, 182.2 or something like that. And I was a little bit leaner then than I was now. So I'm going to lose about 1 more pound to get back to that same. Last year when I ended my cut, I was like at the low 6, maybe high 5s, but low 6%. Right now I'm in a high 6%, low 7 probably. So I'm going to lose about 1 more pound of fat, and then that'll put me, I'll probably end about 186, maybe 185 and a half. And if I look at that and I go, okay, in the last year I've gained 3 or 4 pounds of lean mass and I've actually retained it through my cut, great. I mean, that's all I can ask for. I've been lifting weights for almost 12 years now, and my first 6 or 7 years I didn't have a clue what I was doing, didn't make very good gains at all. I've only really been doing it properly for maybe about 4 years now, 4.5 or so, and so I'm happy with those gains. As a natural weightlifter, I mean, that's the most I can really ask for is 3 or 4 pounds a year at this point. And I really don't want to add just more size everywhere. I would like a little bit more of my calves, a little bit more of my shoulders, maybe a little bit more of my lats. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how my body is now. So I just kind of want to keep it there. I'm not interested in looking like a bodybuilder per se. All right, yeah. So if you have any questions, you can just leave them here in the comments, or you can head over to my website. I'll put a link down below where you can just have like a little ask me anything type of thread in my forums that a lot of people post on. It's actually in the forums. It's a blog post actually, so you can use the comment section of the blog post, and I respond to everything personally. I have a good system set up of like email alerts and stuff, so I can just go through things very quickly and make sure everybody gets a reply. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, and see you next time.